Hi, Aneesha. Welcome to Let's OTT. It's such a pleasure to have you with us today.
Hi, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
And how are you doing this morning? I'm really sorry, but because of us, you had to get up early in the morning for this interview because you're not here, you're not in India.
I'm in America. I'm right now at home with my family. But you know what? Luckily, I'm a morning person. I like to get up and start my day quite early. So it's
Great.
great. It was wonderful. You caught me at a good time. I actually lose energy throughout the day. So this is the best time to catch me.
Right. You're an early riser, and that means you have a lot of time on your hands during the day. And these days, everybody has a bit of extra time on their hands. How do you plan your day?
Ever since I was young, I've always been this kind of person that really thrives on like a good routine and a schedule.
Yeah.
I used to get made fun of a lot by my friends and family that I'm really bad at relaxing. Like I'm really bad at taking vacations because like I can chill and relax for like the weekend, but if it goes on for an extended period of time, I get some anxiety. I feel like I should be doing something at all times.
Right.
um so yeah, I like to stick to a really good routine. I like to get up at the same time every day. I like to start my morning. I like to meditate, make a healthy breakfast, go for a jog. And then like all of this stuff is done before lunch. And
Yeah.
then, like I just feel like when I like to make my bed and do my skincare routine.
Hmm.
And I just feel better that way. I feel like if I can conquer my morning, my day doesn't get out of my control. Then
Right.
I'm like prepared and ready to handle whatever challenges come my way throughout the day. And I just enjoy living that way.
Right. Is there anything like out of the ordinary that you've been doing these days at home? Like, I mean, since everybody has a bit of extra time, people are taking classes or they're,
Yeah,
I don't know. Is
right.
there anything extra that you're doing?
Well, I've been spending a lot of time with my family, which is nice because I don't normally get to,
Hmm.
because they stay here in America and I'm usually in Bombay.
Hmm.
So just quality time with my mom and dad and my brother has been really nice. Apart from that, I've been reading a lot, which is, it sounds funny, but I think, as actors, we're usually reading audition scripts, or we're reading, film scripts, or web series scripts, or we're only focusing on the things that we're about to work on in the short term.
Yeah.
And so just to read for leisure, just endlessly for hours, just read books just because I am curious about them without anything like related to work has been so
Right.
nice. It was such a hobby of mine that I ended up losing touch with, just because I'm sure everybody who lives in Bombay, who's in this line of work, understands it's like your days just disappear from you and you have very little like leisure time to yourself.
Yeah.
And so I'm enjoying the downtime. I've been reading, I've been cooking a lot, which is
Hmm.
fun. uh, and I've discovered that I actually enjoy cooking quite a bit, and it's a good stress
That
relief
will
for
come
me.
in handy when you're
So
back in
yeah.
Bombay.
You know, actually before I left for America, I think I was in Bombay for a large part of the lockdown, the initial lockdown
Right.
that happened. And so during that time, I obviously, like so many people, we usually have help. We have people that can come and cook, and that job isn't really done by me usually. During lockdown, I had to let my maid go, essentially, with
Right.
paid leave, just so she wasn't endangering herself or,
Hmm.
people in our building or our flatmate. We just had to be very, very careful about, people that were coming in and out. There was
Hmm.
elderly people that live in my building on my floor, and it was just, too scary of a situation to have so much traffic. And
Hmm.
so during that time, me and my flatmate really learned how to learned how to cook and learned how to take care of ourselves. And it was an empowering feeling to be able to do that completely on your own. And
Right.
so that's a skill that I've developed that really, really came in handy.
Your sister and you are both like now part of this industry, and of course both of you have made your transition from the United States of America, which is where you're from, and now you're both in Bombay. So has your family
Hmm.
been supportive about this journey? I mean, what is their ethos about the fact that both of you are working here now?
Yeah, I'm extremely lucky, and so is my sister, that we have such incredibly supportive parents. And I mean that in a very different sense. My father was an actor as a child in Hindi films,
Oh.
and my aunt, Pallavi Joshi,
Hmm.
is a is a pretty well-known TV actor, producer. She was an anchor. She hosted Antakshari for many years.
Yeah.
She is,
She's a household
part
name
and
for
parcel of the
us
industry.
90s kids. She's a
Yeah.
house.
Oh, yeah, totally. And
Yeah.
so whenever we used to visit India growing up on vacation summers, we would spend a lot of time with her on sets. A lot of our family was very artistic. I grew up learning music from my dadi.
Right.
And so it was always around us, entertainment. I began dancing at a very, very young age.
Hmm.
And while my parents were always very keen on us following an academic route, they wanted us to study. Both me and my sister, we've went to university. We've graduated with bachelor's degrees. And
Hmm.
it was after that, my parents were always supportive of us following our dreams. I think as parents, they wanted to empower us with other tools as well. So
Hmm.
they're like, you can do whatever you want. You just have to get your degree. Get your degree. You're still young. Just get it and be very, very sure. And I took that advice because I think it's different when it's coming from someone who's been there,
Hmm.
who's worked there. When I graduated from BU, I graduated early, and I told my parents, I said, I had a job offer at a marketing firm lined up, ready to go. I said, you know what? I think if I don't go and take this chance now and follow my dreams, it may never happen.
Sure.
And so I went, and um, a couple years later, Anuja came as well,
Hmm.
and I think that was it was lovely that we were able to support each other in that journey. And my parents have been great. They really, really support us a lot.
You started your career, doing these slightly smaller roles in really big films. You were a part of Simran, you were
Yeah.
part of Jununiyat, you were a part of Padmavat. What is the kind of trajectory that you imagine for your career in the future? What are the kind of roles that you'd like to do?
I think that's an interesting question. I honestly am just very grateful to work. I don't believe that it's the actor's duty necessarily to decide at the onset what they want to do. I think that I'm just trying to carve a place for myself that I can do the type of work that I'm proud of, and to be able to provide uh, some quality work for whatever production that I'm in.
Right.
Working as I think this is something that's not talked about very often, but lending support to a star is a very good lesson to learn,
Hmm.
especially early on in your career. If you know how to support and lend support, and not kind of become personally affected by the dynamics of a star or a supporting role, I think you find yourself as a performer a little bit more.
Sure.
I never let my ego get involved with any of this type of stuff. I'm just here to learn. I'm here to learn. I try to maintain that humility. Obviously, everybody wants to be able to showcase their talent as much as possible. And so when that opportunity comes for me, I'm sure that I'll be able to face it head on with a little bit more life experience from had gone through, maybe being not the most important person on the set.
Sure.
And it teaches you the importance of the craft, rather than what everybody tries to make it about, which is a hierarchy.
Hmm.
And I think that's also the type of, like, I did a lot of theater in
Yeah.
high school, and here, especially in the States, we the star culture, it exists, but I think in India there's a massive like, it's like a huge force. When a star walks onto a set, it's like the place goes silent, and there's a lot of like things you can and can't do or say, or, you don't want to upset anybody. So
Hmm.
I was learning that at first when I moved to India.
Hmm.
And yeah, I don't know, I think it's a learning process for me, but like I said, I would hope to just keep doing good quality work, and I'm grateful for my experience in starting out really small. I think there's a lot that's not talked about that type of experience, and I'm lucky to have had it.
You mentioned something really interesting because I mean, and it's very commendable because you said that it's usually, I mean, you don't really pay emphasis to people who are providing support to the bigger stars. But having said that, I mean, of course, you've provided support to Deepika
Right.
and Kangana, but then you're also doing these smaller independent films which don't have A-listers headlining their cast, but you're
Yes.
providing support to them as well. So, which of course brings me to your
Yes.
film, I'll Meet You There. But I mean that's really interesting because that's something that you are actually doing. You're providing support to not just the big stars, but also to comparatively smaller stars.
Right, yes. And like I said, I think it's I'm somebody who believes that the script is the central most important facet of any film. I think a lot of great stories and a lot of great films get really hijacked when personal egos get involved.
Right.
You know, I'm not Aneesha Joshi on set. I am my character that was written on the page, so the story can progress.
Mm.
And it's there for a reason, and I only focus on that. And you know, during my time shooting for Heartbeats,
Mm.
it was a very different experience because that was arguably the first time that I had done a lead or like a lead type of role
Mm.
where it was almost like a love triangle type of story.
Right.
And so it was all three of us kind of given equal weight and importance in terms of showing up and carving out that role.
Mm.
And I was almost a little apprehensive because, you know, how is this going to go? Especially with two females, you
Mm.
know, vying for, I guess, equal amount of attention.
Mm.
Although, you know, she does get the guy in the end. Spoiler. But it was that for me was lovely because we all only cared about the story
Mm.
and the script and making sure that the story is getting told
Mm.
rather than, you know, I if I wanted to throw tantrums and say, you know, well, I want this, and if I'm not getting this much screen time, then I'm not doing it, then I feel like we're losing the point of
Mm.
why we're in this line. It's not about, you know, showing off. I mean, it's not reality TV.
Right.
It's not, you know, everyone look at my face for the entirety of the film.
When it
Yeah.
comes to I'll Meet You There, which is your last film, which was screened at the SXSW.
Hmm.
I think it's a very
Hmm.
interesting project because it kind of ties into this whole conversation that we're having right now, especially in the United States, where they're trying to promote
Yeah.
diversity and inclusion of minority communities.
Yeah.
And the entire
Yeah.
film is based on a Pakistani immigrant in the United States and his relationship with his daughter. Like,
Yeah.
what does it? Yeah, well, how do you feel being part of that project?
I'm very proud to be part of the project. Again, the amount of female empowerment that I experienced on this set was brilliant.
Yeah,
Between, you know, Nikita, who was one of the actors, and our director, Iram Parveen Bilal. She's, I mean, a female Pakistani woman. You
yeah,
know, she's directing a Hollywood film, an independent Hollywood film, and you know, we have Indian people on the set, we have Pakistani people on the set, we have, you know, it was just such a wonderful, and we were shooting in New York, and I was like so proud to be part of a project that was really driving home the point that, you know, our stories can be told and deserve to be heard.
right,
And it was such a inspiring moment for me to realize that there is room now for us to be heard. There is room for female protagonists, women of color, that are not stereotyped to playing, you know, one type of role or one type of thing.
right,
You know, early on when I was auditioning in LA, people I oftentimes used to hear that I'm not Indian enough for
mm,
what Hollywood wants from an Indian girl.
sure,
And I never understood that. I said, what does that mean? And I always used to get references drawn to, you know, like other Indian actors, people like Kal Penn, people like Mindy Kaling,
mm,
you know, uh, and that really, you know, they're incredible. They're such front runners in Hollywood
mm,
as you know, South Asians, you know, in America. But I think now it's really opening up quite a bit to backgrounds. You know, yes, I'm Indian, but I was born here, and
mm,
I might look or dress a certain way, just like somebody else might look and dress a certain way. It doesn't make me less Indian.
right,
And I think it was such a wonderful experience on this film because everybody was being accepted for who they are
mm,
and what they bring to the table. And to be in a community of Americans or Indian Americans or Pakistani Americans together, we all have so much in common, and that this is the root struggle that most of us have. When we live here growing up, we're not white, we're not
Yeah.
American. We have our
Yeah.
culture, we have our language, we have our upbringing. But then
Mm.
when I come to India, people hear my accent, people see me and they're saying, oh no, she's not Indian.
Yeah.
So I end up feeling very in between both worlds, like, because I don't quite really fit in anywhere.
Mm.
And so a lot of the NRI population, the Indian American, Pakistani American population, they feel the same way.
Mm.
And so we were all able to kind of bond on that. And that was awesome. And I
Mm.
hope that, our population can continue to tell our stories because they are very unique.
Mm.
It's a very unique experience growing up here.
Mm. Do you think, since this movie chronicles this kind of, experience that you've had where you feel a bit confused about which culture you belong to completely, and since this film is being screened at film festivals, do you think that kind of exposure does it well? Because if it picks up at film festivals, it gets that kind of, critical buzz, then more films like that can be made, about these unique experiences. So what do you feel about that?
Absolutely. And I think now, with the digital age, so many more stories are even, we're able to have access to more. A lot of platforms take a lot of different types of stories. The festivals are lovely. Yeah. I mean, we're in a crazy time. People aren't going to theater halls. People are not, able to congregate and watch films together.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think we're all very lucky as artists that we have so much more ability now to share and tell and watch. And so I continue. I mean, this film, of course, especially having been part of it, but regardless, I think, smaller stories, smaller voices, sometimes there are some incredible journeys that, just because a film doesn't have a huge major studio backing or a very, very like deep pockets producer, doesn't mean it doesn't deserve to be told. Doesn't mean it doesn't
Yeah.
uh, it's not going to be entertaining. Doesn't mean you won't walk away with it. In fact, I think it's a good time for us to start turning our attention a little bit more towards this entire world that's, kind of untapped.
Mm.
And it's exciting. I love it. Even in India, when I came, I think Bollywood kind of is the big banner that everybody
Yeah.
aspires to be part of. It's the big glitz, it's the big everything. There's a tremendous amount of, I mean, fabulous regional films in
Mm.
India that I've seen some of them different languages that, languages I don't even speak. And I'm just in awe. I'm in awe of the talent that exists. There is just some beautiful, beautiful stories. And then you wish that, oh, but I wish that this was, a bigger film.
Mm.
But then sometimes I don't, because had it been a bigger film, maybe it wouldn't have kept its authenticity, because then, it becomes more of a financial project. It becomes a business plan rather than, just a small story with a small cast that was
Mm.
just meant to entertain.
Mm.
So maybe I don't know. I go back and forth. Obviously I have, what actor doesn't want to be part of a huge film that's a
Mm.
big spectacle with 5 6 songs, and everybody wants that. It's a culture that we've made
Right.
and we've spread all over the world, and we're Bollywood is known for it world over. It's magical, it's wonderful. I grew up with it, you know the DDLJs and all that. Like, it was fabulous. I
Mm.
think that is our trademark, but I also think that now, especially in this type of time with so much, social unrest, with so much, a need for minority representation in a pandemic, I think
Yeah.
people's sensitivities are, turning more towards individual stories. I think we're ready and it's time.
Mm. Speaking of which, are you looking to diversify into maybe content exclusively for digital platforms? Have you been looking at projects like that?
Absolutely. And it's something that I've been looking at for a while. I think, because of the COVID situation, so much work has kind of come to a halt because it's
Mm.
just not safe or advisable for a lot of people to shoot. But in this downtime, I've really been, obviously, I've been getting approached for so many different types of web series almost every other day, like some new story on a new platform. And it's amazing to see how much can be made because there's such a large audience for it now.
Mm.
And I've been watching some shows. I mean, my sister and my brother-in-law to be, my sister got engaged recently to Ankur Rathi. He
Mm.
does quite a bit of web work.
Mm.
And, you know, my sister had a show, Hello Minnie, which was quite successful. And then she was
Yeah.
part of Broken But Beautiful season 2. And because she was part of season 2, I watched season 1. And, you know, I kind of got into this whole thing. And it's just, it's awesome. It's fun. And the stories are great.
Mm.
And I really can't wait to see what more we come up with as an industry in this space. It's a wonderful way now for so many actors at
Yeah.
once to
Yeah.
to have an ability to work, and there's less restrictions or limitations now. I
Mm.
think everyone who's anyone has a much bigger opportunity just because of the amount of work that's
Right.
happening and the amount of shows that are being made.
Right.
So I think it's great.
Just because you mentioned this, I'd love to know from you this experience that you had where you were talking about, when you come here, you have this accent and people don't really think that you're Indian, yet you've been approached for a lot of work in the web space. Um,
Yeah.
by any chance, the kind of roles that you're getting, I mean,
Yeah.
it would be presumptuous of me to ask if you're happy with those roles, but are you being stereotyped into playing that kind of NRI return girl by any chance, do people genuinely offer you like a variety multitude of roles?
I think initially the safe bet would be to naturally cast me in something along that line, more of the NRI type of return girl,
Yeah.
which ends up, I mean, I would be lying if I said that didn't come a lot my way.
Hmm.
But then, every once in a while, I also do get these opportunities that are very off from what I am, some heartland girl, that speaks in a completely different accent. And obviously it's so intimidating for me because I'm
Yeah.
just, like, God, am I going to be able to do this? But then when it comes down to stuff like that, I'm very, very diligent. I work with addiction coach,
Hmm.
I work with, like instructors, I really, really try to make sure that I'm doing it justice. And
Right.
so, those things have what feels right for me and what they feel like I'm a good fit for. And
Hmm.
that's when it's going to work. And I think that breaking that own stereotype of myself is something that's only going to happen over time.
Hmm.
It's only going to happen when I have the opportunity to prove myself over and over and over again, so that idea solidifies in people's minds that she's not just this type.
Right.
But it's good, it's changing. And I think that's the other thing. When we come from America to India, there's quite a bit of judgment that we face
Yeah.
just as individuals, because I guess there's this notion that we don't belong.
Hmm.
And when I think about it, I look at people. I say this a lot. Nora Fatehi is one of them for me. She I believe she's from Canada,
Yeah.
and she came with dreams and did not stop until she made a name for herself, and it's so inspiring.
Hmm.
She told, I think in an interview she mentioned that she didn't name the casting director, but a casting director said to her, "We don't want you here. We have Katrina. We have other girls like this."
Hmm.
And that was crushing for her, because she was like, "But I love you guys, I want to work here." Like, and that really, when she said that, that really stuck with me, because I've heard similar things. I've heard that, but okay, but you want to do this, but you're not like this. You're not tall enough. You're not fair enough. You're not American that way enough.
Hmm.
So it's discouraging when you hear that, because it shouldn't be about the stereotype. It should be about the performance. And
Right.
I think it's becoming more about that now.
Hmm.
And I'd always say that, just give me a chance. Let me audition for you. Let me show you my talent. I'll make you
Right.
believe in me.
Right.
And so many times you get the door closed on you just because. And now I I think that the more role models we have, the more people will be inspired to take the leap and believe that it can actually happen for them.
One can only hope that, I mean, the kind of experiences you've had, and now that you're also really active on social media, the way you leverage it to to showcase your
Yeah.
dance, and you also reach out to your fans and followers. So I mean,
Oh
the
yeah.
more you talk about these stories, the more they'll just reach out to your younger fans who are kind of also maybe have aspirations to make it here in this industry, hopefully.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. And when I was alone for a lot of it in the beginning, my sister still hadn't moved, uncle still hadn't moved. A lot of people, I was for the first maybe year, almost 2 years, I was kind of just trying to figure things out for
Yeah,
myself.
yeah,
And now when I look around, we have such a big community. Like so many people
right.
have decided to come. And during that time, I used to get a lot of younger people from my area, from America, being like, "How did you do it? Like, what? Aren't you scared?" And
Mm,
my answer is like, "Yeah, of course, but." I mean, you have one life to live. I just wanted to go and give it a shot. What's the worst that's going to happen?
right,
What is the absolute worst? The
right.
worst would be if I sat home and said, I was too scared, I didn't even go. And I'll never regret that decision because it's opened so many doors for me.
Mm,
And I can only imagine, here's the thing. I think that anybody who has perseverance, anybody who has humility, anybody who really spends a lot of time working on bettering themselves at what they do,
mm,
and if you have patience, I mean, things work out for people.
right.
Now, saying exactly, what kind of thing that you want, that's, I think that's a good way to kind of create some sort of visual guideline for how to work.
Mm,
But I tell people not to get discouraged. It takes time. It
mm.
does. It takes years. It takes a long time. And this industry is ruthless, but you have to have unwavering faith in yourself. If you have unwavering faith in yourself, I think anything is possible, no matter what it is.
That's a lovely aspirational note to end on, because I was going to ask you if there's something you'd like to tell your fans and followers, but I think that's a nice way to round it all up.
Yeah.
And deeply admire your your
Yeah.
tenacity and determination to make it here. And thank you so much for joining us on this chat. I hope everyone checks
Thank
out your new movie whenever it's released in theaters, or if it
thank
makes
you
it to
so
a
much.
digital
Thank you so
release.
much for speaking with me. Yes.
Oh, my
Yes,
pleasure.
absolutely.
And I hope everyone follows you on Instagram, because I think you're a great dancer. I can't dance, so I think but objectively speaking, I think
When
you're
I come
good
to
at those.
Bombay, we'll dance together.
Oh, great! I'll hold you to that. I'll
Thank
hold you
you.
to that. Thank you so much. And guys,
Yes.
please follow and like and
Thank
subscribe
you so
to
much.
our content on Let's OTT. Please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thank you so much.